Hello everyone. A few videos ago, I shared something about feeling cold or nudged to be visible, to create, and finally responding to something that I've personally felt like I had to do for a really long time. And this video resonated with many of you, and honestly, I don't think it's because of YouTube or content itself, but because of you maybe recognizing and feeling underneath it. Maybe something that you've been carrying for a really long time quietly. And after reading the comments, I realized that I have more to share. Not to clarify myself, but to go deeper. And today I would like to talk about what this call or feeling of being cold or nudged feels like long before it actually makes sense what it is, what shape or form it might take. Long before you might even be realizing what is asking of you. So if you've ever felt restless, having a vision or feeling that nudge but without having any clear direction, this video might land for you. I personally know how isolating this experience might feel like, especially when you're inside of it. So my hope is that video might help you feel seen, or at least less alone. When I said in that earlier video that I first heard that call in 2021, I meant something specific. That was when it took the form of YouTube and speaking publicly. But for many people, it can show up very differently. As a pull to start a podcast, to leave a job, to end a relationship, to sell your house, to start a business, to finally tell someone how you truly feel, or just finally start acting on something that you've been carrying for years. And all of these expressions, starting, ending, living, creating, are usually preceded by the same thing, a nudge or a call. And when I say call, I don't really mean something grand or exclusive. I'm actually talking about something very human. That inner nudge, the restlessness, the yearning. That feeling or sense that you know you need to do something or stop doing something even long before you can fully explain why. It's just this feeling. I felt it for as long as I can remember myself. Long before it had a name and long before it had an outlet. This feeling, it wasn't dramatic. It was more like having a small stone in your shoe. Not big enough to stop you from walking, so you can still live your life, work, be productive, even successful, but at the same time, you're always aware of it. Whether you're busy or you stand still, it's always there. And if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone and you're not imagining it. I remember I was sitting on the floor, literally on the floor so many times, feeling restless, lost, misaligned with places, people, jobs, and groups of friends. And just having this sense or feeling that I need to move, I just need to go, to leave. But at the same time, having absolutely no idea where. And that not knowing was the hardest part. Like, if I knew exactly where to go or what to do, that would have been so much easier. But there were no directions, just this persistent feeling of restlessness. If you've ever felt that you were in this in-between, not unhappy enough to justify living, but at the same time not aligned enough to stay, this is the exact space where this nudge or restlessness leaves. And many people do not stop their lives for a small stone. They tell themselves it's nothing. They get used to it. They get distracted. They stay productive, socially acceptable. They stay busy. And on the surface, everything looks fine. But this feeling of having that small little stone doesn't go away. Over time, it starts shaping how you walk. There is an old psychological example where the water drops fall on a person's head slowly and rhythmically. And while each drop is harmless, over time people break. I find that ignoring that call or nudge feels a lot like that. Each moment is tolerable and each day is manageable, but the accumulation isn't. And if you're watching this and wondering why you might feel increasingly flat, tired, disconnected, or restless, even if everything looks fine and nothing is wrong on the surface, I think this might be worth paying attention to. This feeling of yearning or restlessness can feel like missing the places you've never been to or missing the people you haven't met yet. It's like you know you need to go somewhere, but you don't know where. You know you need to do something, but you don't know what exactly. You know you need to meet someone, but you don't know who. And our mind really struggles with this. Like, man, our mind hates this uncertainty because our mind wants the logic, coordinates, it wants a plan, a strategy. And the yearning or restlessness doesn't work like that. It's not something that you can think your way through. It's something that you're meant to live into. I want to be very clear. What I'm about to say is not coming from a place of judgment, but from lived experience, because I've done all of that. I really tried distracting myself. I tried to throw myself into work, being productive and staying busy. I also tried to outrun this feeling socially too. I even tried talking to a few people about it, but I rarely felt understood. Usually what I hear would be, just live like everyone else, just relax, have some fun. And I tried, but I couldn't. And if that sounds familiar to you, I want you to know that it does not mean that you are ungrateful or undisciplined. Often it means that you're trying to solve a directional problem with coping strategies. Because when people refuse to act upon this feeling or pretend like it does not exist, these people do not stay the same. They numb with alcohol, cigarettes, or something else. They scroll, they overwork, they overeat, they overattach, detach, they avoid, they self-destruct quietly. And it's happening not because they're weak, but because it really hurts to keep hearing something very important and still refuse to answer it. And before I understood what was happening, this feeling moved my life anyways, across continents, countries, states, out of jobs, out of apartments, and entire social circles. At the time, I thought I was being forced to choose against myself. And only later did I realize that I was not being punished or redirected randomly. I was just being moved towards something that I could not see yet. And I was asked to trust the process and have some faith. Sometimes it feels like I've already lived 6 or 7 different lives. Different versions of me, different titles, different worlds and different endings. If you've ever felt exhausted by how much you've changed, it's not because you're lacking direction. It's because you're deeply attuned and you're actually listening. There were moments where I knew what I needed to do and I didn't want to, because I was too afraid, too tired, too stubborn. I remember sitting on the floor crying, knowing exactly what I needed to do and what life was asking me to act upon. And I resisted anyways. I want to be very mindful and cautious here because not everyone's depression has the same causes. But in my experience and in many people I've spoken to, every single time I was trying to stay where I did not belong, where I was not meant to stay, something in me would just start shutting down. My energy would drop, my emotional health deteriorated. It's like as if my system was saying, this is not where you belong. So at some point, it stopped feeling like a choice. Not because I was being punished, but because staying was costing me more than leaving. This is where faith comes in, at least for me. Not faith as certainty, but faith as movement. Moving even when you're blindfolded. Because the heart doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in knowing. People often ask how to trust uncertainty. But the thing is, you're not waiting for certainty. You just move first when nothing makes sense yet. It's like jumping out of a plane, trusting that the parachute will appear on the way down. And somehow, it always does. Sometimes the tiniest bit of faith is all you really need. This is what I've lived and learned again and again. I remember one specific moment very clearly, as if it happened yesterday. I had just quit my job as a paralegal at a large law firm in Chicago. The very first logical, stable job after a series of jobs working as a server at a restaurant, trying to make my ends meet as an immigrant. So I had just quit that job without knowing exactly what was coming next. I had landed this short-term startup contract, but it was nothing secure and nothing guaranteed. And I remember staying in JFK Airport, cold air, overhead announcements, and my luggage right next to me, and feeling so terrified but so alive at the same time. I didn't have a long-term plan. I didn't have a strategy or coordinates, but I had a direction, and that was enough for me. And looking back, I realized that this moment taught me something very important, which is when a path is truly for you, it doesn't always come with certainty first. Sometimes it comes with just enough clarity to make that first step. And the next one reveals itself once you take it. When I was younger, I truly believed that I could control everything in my life. Like, if I planned enough, tried hard enough, pushed enough, then I could create my life entirely on my own. And life humbled that part of me pretty quickly. I realized it has never been about creating on your own terms, but it has always been about the process or act of co-creation. Like, you can send hundreds of resumes, perfect ones, even millions of those resumes, but if no one opens them, nothing really happens. There is another participant involved, something beyond you, your understanding, or your desire to control. That's why effort alone does not determine outcomes. Co-creation means that you do your own part as best as you can, and then the unseen meets you if there is alignment. Some people call it luck. I don't. I call it collaboration. Collaboration with God, the Creator, the unseen, the universe, whatever you choose to believe. Now, my relationship with God is personal. I'm a believer now. But if I'm being completely honest, it's always been a journey. I've questioned, I've researched, I've resisted, I've bargained, I've asked for proof. And maybe one day I will record a video if I feel like sharing a little bit more. But for now, what I can say is that The fact that I'm still alive after everything I've lived through is proof enough for me. Sometimes hearing someone name the experience is enough to trust your own. I'm not here to tell you what to do because you're the only one who knows. But I'm here to maybe help you to trust a little bit that feeling, that nudge, a little bit more. If you've been feeling this restlessness, this little stone in your shoe, and this sense or knowing that something needs to change, even if you can't name it yet, you're not alone and you're not behind. Sometimes the most meaningful shifts in our lives do not start with answers. They start with listening and being present, and then responding honestly and gently when this nudge comes.